Okay, hello again. Now I'm just going to talk very briefly about another. It's not directly linked to what we're talking about, but I decided just to add it in, and it's Michel Foucault's notions on heterotopia, on the idea of space. I've included this within our discussion because I think that in actual fact, a lot of diasporic communities use these heterotopic spaces as a kind of a refuge, if you like, from dominant cultures, and they can be like separate, closed cultural spaces, and they could be anything. They could, for example, a heterotopia could be a kind of a special kind of club inside which you enter, if you like, into a parallel universe where there's a recreation of the culture, or even the home itself could be considered to be a heterotopic space, in the sense that many times when we look at we read novels, films, the home is always, in many ways, is compared to the outside. The outside is sort of like foreign, while the home is this kind of refuge, and it's this kind of no place, in the sense that it's not physically linked to the culture, because once you enter the home, you enter into a different kind of realm. Okay, so the idea here being is that it's an escape from hegemony. Okay, if you remember, hegemony was the sort of controlling powers of society through culture, through capital, and so on and so forth. And what Foucault does when he devises this idea of the heterotope, he uses the ship as an example. So the ship is this self-contained space that is looking in upon itself, but it's floating on the ocean, so it's looking out onto the vastness of the ocean, the infinity. So it's a place that it only exists within itself, and it exists also outside, in relation to the vastness of the ocean. On the second slide, that's the first slide. On the second slide, what you will find is just the actual etymology of the actual term, the heterotope. Okay, so the hetero, it's got to do with both the idea, the second part of utopia, of utopia. So utopia is a no place, in the sense that it's more like an ideal of something. Okay, and then of course the hetero is the prefix of hetero is something of another, something that is different. Okay. Now moving on to the actual third slide. Okay. So what it talks about, what the heterotope is also it's both the affirmation of difference and a means of escaping authoritarianism and repression. Okay. So again, if you think back to what I just said about heterotopic spaces within diasporic culture, what you have is, in a sense, where if the dominant culture is very repressive, these spaces that are created are ways of escaping, or of creating these other, if you like, utopian spaces where the diasporic culture can actually express itself. Okay. So, and if you look at the actual bottom of the slide, I think that what it says here, and I'll read it, it says there are two functions. There's a heterotopia of illusion, which creates a space of illusion that exposes every real space. So if the heterotopic space is something that is constructed in comparison to the real space, and the heterotopia of compensation is to create a real space. So it's utopian, but so obviously all utopias are approximations of something. It's our imagining, but in itself that imagining is creating something else. So in the case of hybridity, of in-betweenness, all heterotopic spaces, be they art galleries, be they clubs, anything that is doing is creating an alternative space, and if you like, a utopian space, in the sense that they're trying to create something new. In the next slide, it talks about types of heterotopia, and here Foucault mentions like museums. So museums, if you like, are both in and out of time, and so they're places where culture is fossilized, but they also exist outside of time. That would be obviously museums are part of dominant culture. Museums are the ways in which cultures represent themselves. So in the case of the diasporic culture, having some sort of a cultural space where the culture of your particular ethnic grouping is represented would be a heterotopic space, similar to the museum, but it doesn't form a part of those national discourses. Okay. And also it's a microcosm of different environments, okay? So it condenses the actual culture, and it creates something that is representative. It's microcosmic. Okay. And that's the end of that very short introduction to the heterotopia. So again, it might be just a consideration that you could use if you were looking at any particular kinds of cultural expressions in whatever particular thing that you were going to write about, and you might find that the actual concept of heterotopia helps you to define a bit more some of the strategies that are being used. Okay, guys, I hope you're well. Muchas gracias a todos los que ya me habéis mandado ya las presentaciones. Yo sé que esto es difícil, pero bueno, yo sé que esto es una situación excepcional y que bueno, pues hay que llevarlo de la mejor manera posible. Y bueno, espero que estáis todo bien. Más o menos el confinamiento, bueno, a veces tiene su altibajo, pero bueno, eso es lo que nos ha tocado, así que muy bien, ya sabéis que podéis contactar conmigo a través del chat o a través del Whereby, que lo tengo allí en el campus. Y bueno, pues nada, espero que estéis todo bien y pues nada, chao.